Welcome to the iNETrepreneur radio show. We are so honored to bring you your host, the ultimate celebritypreneur, connecting businesses and celebrities worldwide. Winner of the Networking Organization of the Year, best-selling author, magazine publisher, trainer, and owner and founder of Network Together and the iNETrepreneur Media Network from magazines, TV, and radio network. We're excited to bring you your host, Mr. Robert W. Jones.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being with me here today. It's another beautiful day in the sunny state of Arizona. I mean, we must be hitting maybe, 76 degrees at most right now. And to be this close to May, that is an amazing accomplishment. Believe me, we are loving it. And, one of our one of our guests today is from, California. And I would even agree, at least I hope she would agree with me, that 76 is not a bad temperature to have. I cannot believe it's only been 2 days removed from our event called the Art of Connection Summit. Wow, what an event. If you weren't there with us, you missed connections, you missed passion, you missed energy, you missed a whole bunch of great information and the most wonderful panels that I've been a part of. And of course, I might be saying it because I was facilitating those panels, but really, the guest contributors that were on those panels brought it that day. And the speed presentations that were, after those panels. I mean, I've had so many guests that I've never been a part of a virtual event that brought so much energy. And, it's really exciting when people come back to me and they say, hey, Robert, what's next? What are you going to do? Now, I want to remind everyone to go ahead and subscribe to our channel. It's our radio channel. It's youtube.com/iNETrepreneur radio. And I get that iNETrepreneur radio is a complicated word, but once you get it, you'll get it forever, right? That's what I'm hoping anyway. And plus, I don't think anyone else out there really wants to go, yeah, I want to have an iNETrepreneur anything. So I am totally fine with that. It's networking and it's entrepreneur together, iNETrepreneur Network. Also, you can like us on Facebook. You just go to Facebook, put in, iNETrepreneur, and you can find us there. Also, if you're looking to meet people, we put on over 1,000 meetings and events and summits and academies and do your one-on-ones. You want to put those in there? We probably do 1 million a year if we put in the one-on-ones as well. Just go to ntevents.net. That's ntevents.net. You can see where our radio shows, our academy classes, our events and networking meetings, both in person and virtual. You can go there to see so much more. But what I'd like to do now is I want to get on with today's show. Today's show is about something that I talk a lot about, but I was never brave enough actually to, be someone to say, hey, I coined a business, named, alignment. So we're going to talk about that, our special guest last. And I kind of gave her a little treat today in one of our networking meetings. But, when I think of alignment, think of alignment like this, where it's relationships or it's your finances or it's your business. If you look at alignment on a daily basis, it may not mean that much to you. But if you look at it from a weekly basis or a monthly basis or a yearly basis, the momentum of being out of a line can have a profound effect on your relationships, on your finances, and certainly your business. And I have 3 experts, and we're going to talk about, how it relates to the relationships, financial components of your life, and also business. And my first guest that I have on our show today is a favorite of mine. She is the current superstar of the iNETrepreneur magazine, and she's one half of the Meador effect. My guest, Donna. Everything's better with Meador. How are you doing today, Donna?
Thank you, Robert. It is better with Meador, if I do say so myself. And you are amazing. You and your wife have put together such an incredible event a couple days ago. And I was so proud and honored to be a part of it. And I wouldn't have missed it for the world if I wasn't. So that's really a win-win all around. I really hope more people find us and join in because it was loads of fun.
And we talk about this so much, and the reason why we always want guests to come in and we don't charge them, and because you have to taste the flavor of the community itself. And, I call it the Marine principle. I was in the United States Marines. I was in for 6 years. I went through boot camp at MCRD in San Diego a long, long time ago. And, I can explain what it's like to be a Marine, but one thing I learned is only a Marine knows a Marine. I mean, that's what it is. And I felt like in our community, we should be able to have guests come in and try it. And my hope is like a box of chocolate. They may not know what they're going to get, but once they taste it, they're going to just really, really like it. And, and that's what really has been the growth of this organization. It has been an organization that's been all about the organic. And Donna, you and I have known each other for probably a good decade now, right?
Yeah, it has been a good decade. But I will say, as we went full circle, because in the beginning, 10 years ago was way different than today. I was in a very different place. I was with my husband. We moved from New York to Arizona, different culture. We were looking for alignment in what we wanted to do next with our life after 2008. And so I picked up different networking groups and didn't really find out about, at that time, Network Together. And so we actually reconnected. Why? Because I was a guest at your iNETrepreneur chapter where you happened to be. And so when I stood up and did my presentation, we immediately reconnected. And I kept saying to you, Robert, I'm looking for a group that has more than just chapters. There's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted more. I wanted to get on stages. I wanted to really launch. I had just invested in a speaking and sales coach, and I wanted to do more. And you're like, Donna, come check us out. And I did. And I was really dumbfounded at how you have grown, what you offer us. I jumped in top tier. I'm a titanium. I love that level. And I love what you're doing and what you offer us. It's like we get to grow as we grow our business, and we're entrepreneurs. We get to grow up with you, Robert. That's awesome.
Well, and that's what I say. Winning is one person, but succeeding is with everyone that you can bring with you. And that's what we do. We don't, our boat, let's just put it this way. Our boat is always being worked on because every week we have to keep adding. We have to keep adding the volume that displaces the water because we're all afloat together. Yes. And the bigger the boat, the better. And we're not talking banana boats. I mean, we're talking true boats here. And it's really excited that we've both seen each other grow, and you've been fearless, in what you've done, Donna. And I can't help but believe over this time you have found a space and alignment, and part of alignment is focus. But what I really want to kind of dive in a little bit without you is I want to go a little bit backwards to go forwards because, relationships is something that you do, but in a way, relationships is also a little bit about who you are. And not everyone knows the Donna Meador story. Not everyone knows that there was someone before Meador. And you met a great man. Absolutely. You've been blessed to have two great men in your life. So tell us a little bit about, getting here, and tell us a little bit about the refining of this new relationship and the direction that you're going.
Thank you, Robert. I'll give you the Cliff Note version. It's all about it's all about alignment. So when I moved west with my husband Pietro, we discovered quickly what we wanted to do. I was looking for a way to help somebody. I wanted residual income and discovered Legal Shield, which that was aligned with me. Health insurance, life insurance, those are great, but it wasn't aligned with who I am. I wanted to help people in a different way. And I thought legal access at such an inexpensive rate was the way to go. And I've never looked back with that. But so I'm doing Legal Shield now for 10 years. And during that time, my husband passed away. And so I was catapulted forward in continuing the journey to stay aligned, look for love where it is, not where it's not, look for joy where it is, not where it's not. And the book that I had written when I was dating my first husband, this now became a love story. And there was a poem in there, Robert. We talked about poems, but what's so amazing is my journey of going out to date again. It was not an easy decision. I had to get aligned. And I'm not even joking when I say that if it doesn't feel right, I don't do it. And so when the time was right and I was aligned, I went out dating again. And who would know that 6 months later, 6 months after I started dating, I met and fell in love with an amazing man who I'm married with today, and that's Jeff Meador. And so, wow, I mean, here I am, a widow who found love again. And unbeknownst to me, the reality of as I go forward, and thank you for calling me fearless, I sort of like that. Women started reaching out to me saying, "How did you find love twice in a row?" It was this, they needed permission to love again, whether they were divorced or widows. It was like I was giving them permission. So I found more of my purpose, and I just keep massaging it together and launching and running with it, Robert.
Well, and you bring that in many other ways because, if you look back at alignment, that's based upon the word ally. And what you're doing is, if you add the word clarity with ally, that means if you're clear in yourself and you have, self-alignment, it means you're absolutely in a better position to be able to find the right business partners, to find the right life partners, to align, with yourself in your own self-beliefs, because you're starting to create a pathway. And like I talked a little bit earlier today with Michelle, who's going to be coming on, a lot of people don't know that ment actually is a French base for the word momentum. And so if you align or excitement or, anything where you put ment at the end, like contentment, are we going to be it actually means whatever you're doing it more and faster as you keep going on. So if you're making the right choices and you're aligned, that means that the momentum of it, can do great things. But if you also get yourself out of alignment, Donna, what happens?
Oh, you fall backwards. You skid backwards. Once you fall out of alignment, it takes way more energy to build up again. And then once you go, you're good. But then if you fall out again, so I'm constantly, it's like the autopilot, constantly tweaking to make sure that I'm in alignment. And it's real. It's real. I have literally picked myself up. I said, I'm getting nowhere fast. You ever hear that expression? I'm getting nowhere fast. I'm fighting against the current. That's not how I want to live. And I literally will go sit in the grass and just get aligned again, get back peace to myself so I can pick up and keep going. Because if it doesn't feel right, I'm not doing it, Robert.
Well, in relationships, this is what's really crazy. And, I believe everyone needs to have people in their life, whether it's religious or whether it's even a marriage coach or whether it's family, have people, I call it the pick up your phone crowd. There's always someone there you can pick up the phone to, and they're with you, and they actually give you that reflection. Because if you're in a relationship, just like a business, and you start becoming out of alignment, what does that relationship look like over time?
That's right.
It's different. It's no different. Mm-hmm. And I think what you do is you don't just help people find love, let's say, and really love sometimes is like the output. What you have to do is help people see if they align first. Correct. So they can create that alignment so they can have that relationship, And so what are some of the things that you do when you sit down with a couple, and you're helping them navigate maybe their second coming of finding new relationships?
Well, thanks for asking that question. As we build this boat that's out on the horizon, we are doing that literally right now. That is the phase I'm in. And so my ideal, I don't want to say client, I want to say the people who are attracted to me are the women who are dating again. Anytime after 35 years old, right? Maybe divorced, maybe they widowed, but they're reaching out.
And that's a scary time too.
It's a scary time. How did you do it, Donna? How did you find love? How did you even get the courage to go back out there? And you're 100% right. It's not about me getting them out there to date. It's about me getting them to open up their mind to understand that they can. And so I clear away, and it's really interesting. It puts a lump in my own throat when I get to help a woman understand her value. In fact, this book, I would tell you, Robert, when I went out to go date the second time, now when I met Peter, I dated for 3.5 years before I met my late husband. So when I was ready to go out again, I got my own book. I've already read the Mars, the Venus, the rules, but I got my own book out to refresh my memory on what I actually done. And so and my whole purpose for writing this book, I became obsessed because I would watch women go out and date and not understand their own value, number one. And number two, they weren't having fun. And I said, well, If you're not having fun and you don't understand your own self-worth, which I didn't at the time either, that's my brilliance. That's where I help women understand. And so I start them off. I tell them, "Oh, get the book first. Don't talk to me before you get the book. It's on Amazon. I think I have it for like $2.99 on Kindles. Like, get the book so that we can help people understand your value, your self-worth, and who you are and what you're looking for." And I give them tips on how to know within the first 4 dates if you're on the same page or not. Easy. And I give them little tips and secrets. Like, I have one secret weapon word that's 3 letters long that will save them hours, days, if not months of aggravation if they pay attention.
Yeah. And you brought up, words that, man, and words mean a lot to me. You brought up value. You brought up worth, and there's 2 ways to look at that, and for so many people, I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about this with you, Donna, because it does matter so much. I am so passionate about what we're talking about today. And what I mean by that is, people sometimes overvalue others and undervalue themselves. Yes. I see it in business, I see it in finance, and I certainly see it in their own self, valuation. And that's why it's so important to have, to be in alignment, because the thing is does your value match your worth? Right. So that is an important question to have. Yes. Does the value you offer match the worth that you are? And that's all about being in alignment. If you're not aligned with your value, you become undervalued. If you're not aligned with your worth, guess what? You have less or no worth at all. And I think a lot of people that come into certain situations, and when they're living in fear and they're looking for lifelines, they truly are out of line. And part of what you do is you help participate, you ally with them, so you can help them, bring back the value and the worth. Because like everything else, and I might talk about this with Joanna a little bit, there is a time value of money, and it is always changing. And that effect can either work for you or against you, can it?
Yes, absolutely. So
and so the other things that I want to talk about when it comes to, how you work with your relationship, I'm going to bring Jeff back into the conversation with you, because here's another thing that has to be, well structured too. It's not only are you married, but you run a business with your partner. Yes. And I would, I might be wrong, but I'm going to go back to the car, or even the bicycle. I say this, it's like having air in the tire. If you have both tires that are flat, you're going nowhere. If you have the front tire flat, you're going nowhere. You have the back tire flat, going nowhere. You got to have both tires filled with air so you can go, you have momentum, right? Yeah. What are some of the conversations that keep you and Jeff on track in your relationship? How do you keep it going? What does your week look like?
Well, first of all, we can't get enough of each other. We literally could live together and be together 24 hours a day. That's how aligned we are. Okay. And what my week looks like is we always have conversation. We never have had an argument. We're almost married 2 years. We're together almost 3. We've never had an argument. We've had disagreements on the way we look at things, but that doesn't matter. We're not forcing each other to look at it. That's number one. We have boundaries. We don't talk about business in the bedroom. Okay. We keep that outside the door. And we are aligned with our roles in the house. So in other words, right now, Jeff is also working a full-time job, quite demanding one as well. But we are also getting ready to launch a television show, and we work our leadership business together. So we literally sat down a few weeks ago and wrote a list independently. What are your top 10 priorities in our lives? And we wrote it down, and then we sat down together and we looked at our list, and I said, all right, now let's pick our top 3, because we can do 1, 2, or 3 things really good, but we can't do 10 things really well, right? So we got aligned. We made sure we're always on the same page, and we picked our top 3. Okay. So everything matters, and the Meador effect is a priority. However, it's not launched yet. It's not bringing income as of yet. So that has to stay, that's number 3, right? That can't be 2 or 1. We want to take care of our bills and keep moving and enjoy. So I want to also just mention, Robert, that iNETrepreneur Network is aligned with our philosophies. That's why we are here. Okay. So I can't tell you that enough. And I mean that sincerely. So everything we do, whether it's the food we eat, the wine we drink, the cigars we smoke, the networking groups we go to, we have to be aligned and in agreement. And we have that conversation. And we know when it's not aligned, we're that tuned in. And that's the first. Awareness is key, right? Awareness is key.
Yeah. My dad always used to tell me, he says, if your life is in line, life becomes very easy. And he didn't mean it's not without trials or tribulations, but the thing is you're able to have a deep enough basket to take on anything. And I really love that, because my dad would always talk to me about, the deepest thing that you only know is the emotions that you have. I mean, everything else is just interpretation, but no one can take the interpretation of emotions or feelings out of your life. And when you're in line, what does that create? It creates, a beauty and an inner essence. And I tell people this in business. If you're in aligned and you have, again, I mean, what is that other saying? It says, you can have all the aptitude in the world, but if you don't have the right attitude, you'll never get to the correct altitude that you want to be. And I think it's so important, because if you don't have that alignment with self, that alignment with the people around you, the alignment with the information that you feed yourself with, and certainly, the alignment with a spouse who you're working with as well, things can fall apart pretty rapidly. And so I just want to, I have your name, relationship expert. It's scrolling across the screen here, Donna. Just brag a little bit about yourself, to end out this segment and how people can get a hold of you.
Well, thank you, Robert. I am a relationship expert because I'm obsessed. I can be found on social media everywhere. People are welcome to text me, reach out to me through email. And I am an empowerment coach. I've been a certified women's empowerment coach since 2013. I also, you don't know this, but I was also in business with my late husband, and it was nothing to do with personality or relationships, but you know what? We were aligned, and it was his love to do that. But I would just say that we don't give ourselves enough credit. So I wasn't prepared to tell you, isn't that interesting that we just aren't ready to brag on ourselves all that much? But you know what? I know what I'm talking about. I found love twice in a row. And it's not, like you said, it's not just about the love. It's about valuing yourself enough to get there.
Absolutely. Well, Donna, as always, I always appreciate you being on the show. We have such a wonderful and great time, and look for us. Donna and I are cooking some things up in the background. We, it's our goal to serve more people. So, look on the NT Events calendar, because you're gonna see us coming online with some other things in just a very short period of time. Donna, thank you again so much for being on the show. You're the best.
Thank you.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
And here you are again. I was so excited. I was daydreaming about all that we talked about it. So I better bring Joanna on. That's what I love about live radio, or well, actually, this is like live television, actually. But you're so great. I had to see you twice. Oh, all right, we'll talk after the show. Oh my gosh! Can you believe that, Joanna? And that's what I love about being obsessed with just, the people that you love and you trust. And that's what's really incredible about everyone on today, because it fills me up in such ways. I'm thinking about, the value. I'm thinking about worth. I'm thinking about being aligned. I'm thinking about creating connections. And there it was, like right in front of me. And Donna had me thinking so deep, I fell asleep. So I apologize that, but I want nothing. So good first segment. And we talked about relationships and alignment and self-worth and value. And I have you on here today, and we've known each other a while now. You've been a facilitator in the iNETrepreneur Network when it was networked together. You're an ambassador now. You live out in the West Valley of Phoenix, the beautiful world of Goodyear and Litchfield Park, which I know, like, and love myself. My mom lives out there. And, there's a couple of things that always stand out about you, Joanna. And, Michelle was kind enough to put this down, and I said something, and then she wrote it and she sent it back to me. And I said that character is not an on and off switch. It's always there. And, and I think about character, when it comes to you. And I think about, if there's any person that it takes, believe me, a lot of trust is to hand over your financial well-being to someone. I call it like living in the sock drawer. Your kitchen may look good. I mean, your front room of your house may look good. Your yard may be manicured well, but you know what? Quite frankly, no one ever wants you to go into your closet and look in your sock drawer, because that's usually not a very pretty sight. And so finances are kind of a lot like that too. You have to be trusted so much that they're willing to align with you or ally with you so you can work with them to better, their financial positions in life. And so what I'd like to start off in asking you a question is, I want to know, why was it the financial world? Why was it that place that brought you into what you wanted to be as an entrepreneur? Because that's a conversation that I don't believe you and I have. I don't know what drives you to do what you do.
Sure. No, well, that's a great question. And first, thank you for saying those nice things. I appreciate that. And when you think about how I came to be here, okay, my parents were and have been and still are small business owners, and pretty much most of my entire life have been around small business owners. And so being able to come from a place where that's the norm is pretty special. I know not everybody who tries to start a business has that background. So I think, first of all, that's a great head start, just being able to have been in that environment. And then with finance coming along, and the many different things I've done throughout my life, I was in the place of education, and I come from an educational family. I think we've talked about that. My dad was a teacher. My grandma was a teacher. My aunt and uncle were teachers. My cousins are teachers. We're from Iowa, so it's that whole great Iowa education. But being part of that conversation was always really important to me, and being able to work in the educational field. I had started in the school setting, and then I was working in some different school settings that were online, some virtual school settings. And then several years ago, my brother had said, you know what, I want to expand my business to Phoenix. I didn't really know what he did. I knew he did something with money. And right. I thought, worst case, I'm going to learn more about money. Right. Hopefully I'm
not bad.
Get my sock drawer in order, right?
Yeah, get the sock drawer in order. I'm telling you, it's all about the sock drawer. I know that there's one skit with Will Ferrell, and it's always about the cowbell. No, I'm telling you, it's not the cowbell, it's the sock drawer. That's what you need.
Yeah.
So but education's in your blood. Financial I guess literacy started becoming in your blood. But it really is tough to start out sometimes in the financial field. It really takes time to nurture and get people to, I'm gonna say it again, to align with you, to say, yes, Joanna, we want to open up our bank accounts or our funds or our life quite effectively, because in a certain way, people live, through their finances like it's their only scorecard. I don't believe that finances is our only scorecard, but a lot of people do. They align their whole life on, how many zeros is after it, and when you work with clients like this, and I'm sure you get lots of varieties, what are some of the first steps that you have to really take to earn their trust so they feel like you're aligning with them and them with, and they with you?
Sure. No, that's really a great question, because you're right. It does take time. when I started networking, I would see these other business owners who were maybe selling some type of item or product, and people were flocking to them and, oh yeah, I'll buy your and I thought, what's going on? It takes a long time to build that trust, because if you decide, oh, I'm going to buy this item, if you decide you don't like it, okay, unfortunately just didn't like it. Where with having the financial conversation, you better be sure you're in alignment and that you're in the right space for you. And so just having those conversations, sometimes it takes more than one contact. Often it takes more than one contact with someone to help them feel comfortable opening up. A lot of people feel shame about their finances. A lot of people think that no one has had money problems like they have. But in truth, most people have had some kind of money issue, but it takes time for people to feel comfortable kind of bearing their soul about that. And it's really having those conversations and building that relationship to find out what's most important to them, and what are their goals and what are their values, and figuring out, not everybody is a fit for me, just like all of us.
Yeah.
We're good fits for certain people. And so having those conversations helps to make sure that people are in alignment, because, I want to make sure that people are in a place that they want something different. And generally, most of the people I talk with aren't already in the most perfect spot. And that's totally fine, because, you don't get well and then go to the doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I've always said this about the financial world. It takes a lot of conversations. In the financial world, sometimes people that they don't hear me, but I tell people all the time, I say, conversations are the currency. I mean, they really are, because if you can't have the right conversations with the right audience when it comes to the financial world, people will tune you out and turn you off faster than, probably picking up the remote control for a television show. And, like I said, what I appreciate about you is that you come from a fearless heart. You give back to the community. You openly provide education, to others, and you work, for not for profits, not for profit, but and I know it comes back to you. And yes, that's a slow process, and yes, it takes time. But what I believe happens to, and maybe I'm wrong, let me know, is once you start finding that kind of like that, the board of people around you, enough people, those people themselves start helping you attract more clients. Is that the case with you?
It is, because a lot of times if somebody, people don't just generally find me online. They don't find my business card floating around somewhere and go, oh, I think I'll call this person and tell her all my money stuff. It's generally either I already have some kind of a relationship with that person, or they come as a referral from someone else who knows me and knows the kind of person that I am and feels that it would be a good fit, that we would be aligned along that journey. Because you're right. It does take a lot of conversations, and the goal really has to be thinking about, how do people become more empowered when it comes to their finances, and how can I help them along that path? And are they willing to take steps towards the goals that they say they have? Because go ahead. Yeah.
See, and this is what's really interesting. And I do try to create a flow to the show. And why I have you in the middle actually is because, if Donna, with relationships, where do relationships many times fail? It's because they're not alignment in their financial world. It really is. The arguments are over finance. But then, you take another step, out the other way. And if you're in business together, and Michelle helps businesses, find their alignment, that's also another attachment to that financial world. Bad relationships, businesses start to fail, disagreements on, how the finances are being, not having correct boundaries and budgets. And my goodness, you can get into like an alignment Armageddon quite rapidly, that way. And that's probably where, like what I'm going into here is saying, how you must have a therapist as well. Because, talking about the business and talking about the relationships and getting people online, and probably trying to do a presentation where, not just one party, because there's even estates, you have to negotiate with many parties and get them online. What does your conversation look like? How do you bring multiple people with multiple ideas and bring them all in line?
So sometimes people have asked me that question because they think there's no way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is different. Everybody comes with their own money story, their own mindset about money. And is it we never had enough? We can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees, or was it? We'll always figure out a way. There are a lot of different stories we all come with.
Yeah.
And so when you start looking at not just an individual, but start looking at a couple or a family, they probably have different ideas about money. And one thing I compared it to one time, and it seemed to make sense, was say somebody's looking at selling someone a home. You've got two people, they sit down and they write out their wish list, right? Oh, I got to have a big backyard. This one's, I got to have a pool. This one's like, I got to have a window in the bed, like, or in the bathroom, whatever it is, right? You're never going to find that house. It just doesn't happen that you have everyone's top things, because those might be contradictory. But it's a matter of having a conversation and creating some negotiation, some give and take, and figuring out together through that conversation, kind of funneling down to what's really most important. There are lots of things that all feed into it, but really looking at what are the most important things and how do we start with those.
Yeah, and I like that. And one of the things that I found is there's never a straight line in finance. I mean, there never is. And that it's the one thing that and I told you about the Warren Buffett story, I believe, once. And my dad, he's a mathematician, and they used to be bridge players together. And, for the longest time, I mean, Warren Buffett tried to beg my dad, please, let me be your financial planner. Let me be your financial planner. This is back in Omaha, Nebraska, when we were really young. And, my dad, he never did it, because my dad didn't see the lines of finances as being something that was true. But there are certain things in the financial world that we do find to be kind of tried and true. It's always cyclical. The market always comes back. There's when some things go high, other things go low, and there's always an opportunity. Just tell us about people who are afraid about the financial world, that it isn't just an open air casino, like my dad thought at one time. And to tell us, comfort us a little bit, who may be like looking at like, hey, maybe I do want to do business with Joanna.
Sure. So I think a lot of times people have a fear of talking about it just because they don't understand it. They don't want to look unintelligent. They don't want to look uninformed. And they're just not comfortable saying, I don't know. Help me learn, right? And I think that it's so important with everything. We know so many different people, and especially through networking, we know so many experts in so many different areas. I am not the expert in every single area.
Right.
I am aligned with so many people who are experts in their areas that I'm okay with saying, I don't know, will you help me with this? So part of it, I think, is just feeling like I should know more, but I don't. And the thing is, most people don't have a clue. And people just haven't had the opportunity to learn. Most people, no one ever took the time to teach them how money works. And so we're thrown into the world and we're expected to know how to handle our finances with very little, if any, information and education on it. And so being able to realize that it's not just, when you take a look at your financial plan, it's not just what are my investments, because that can be very overwhelming. If I feel like I'm uncomfortable with talking about investments, I'm not going to have that conversation. If I think all that this person does is talk about investments and I'm not comfortable in that area, nope, not having the conversation. So I think part of it is just helping people to understand it's not just what are my investments, what am I doing with my money? It's really looking at the more holistic conversation. What are your goals, and what are your dreams, and what are your values, and what's your income, and what are your expenses, and what debts do you have? And is there anything that you've been working to put together? Do you have proper protections in place? Do you have proper documents in place to make sure that everything's set up to go how you want it to go? And it's really taking a look at all of that as a whole to help people. And I think when people have a better understanding that it's not just, so what's in your 401k? What's in your IRA? Sure, that's part of it, but I wouldn't have much to talk about if that was all we ever talked about.
Well,
So
and here's kind of like the last thought, because we're coming up on the end of the segment here. But really, I challenge a lot of people. It took 3 years for myself personally to pull the trigger on having a financial planner for the second time in my life. I mean, after I came from California, I lost all the real estate. I was so embarrassed myself of it all. I mean, I had that attachment that the numbers behind my name was, like Donna and I were talking about, the value and the worth of who I am. And it totally isn't, because, I do have a skill set. I do have a knowledge set. I do have experience. I had all these other things that I could build something back. And, his name is Brian, and Brian would talk to me, and he said, Robert, it's not about what you lost. It's about what you're going to gain again. And I love that. Oh my gosh. And it made me, it was that one little key that opened up my mind to say, I can do this. So, and that's what you do, Joanna. And I want everyone who listens to, hopefully, ring you up or something on the telly, or something like that.
Absolutely.
I've seen you too. I mean, and it was just timing. But, I believe that, financial people who are in the financial industry and they have a passion about it, they're truly coaches as well. Because at the end of the day, you're also trained, to know the product and to know certain solutions and to know, money management and everything else that's with it. I mean, truly, you're a coach as well. But, I'm bragging about you, so you don't have to brag about yourself right now. So just tell us, what's the best way that people can reach you? And,
Sure.
Well, as I have. Absolutely.
Yeah. So the best way to get a hold of me is either give me a call, shoot me a text, or my email is there. I am very easy to reach. Yes, I live in Goodyear, but I Zoom like a crazy person. So just like we all are, we're used to meeting virtually. And if you are in the neighborhood, I think we can start meeting in person again too. So
yeah,
those are all great ways just to start the conversation and see if we might be a fit, and if there are ways that I might be able to be of service to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say it's better to serve than to sell. And you provide great service. Thank you so much, for being on the show today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So great. And stay around afterwards. I always like to have a recap after the show. So thank you so much for your time today.
All right.
Network together. It's all about connections. Expand your sphere of influence. Build relationships. Be part of something bigger. Be part of Network Together.
All right, we have relationships, we have finance, and oh my goodness, a little bit of alignment here. And well, I guess we're doing a tricycle, so I'm going to talk about 3 tires, because if I said, if we had 4 people, then maybe it's the car. But now we have our alignment expert. We have Michelle Carlen with Alignment Advising. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you, Robert. I'm delighted to be here with you today. Thank you.
Well, I am delighted to have you as well. And I know we talked a little bit about Picasso in the green room before the show. And you said, well, this probably isn't a Picasso up there. And I said, what what a great person to represent something that may be abstractly out of line, out of alignment. And, and I'm going to tie that back into what we can do to be in alignment. I mean, so far we've talked about the relationships, and we've talked about the financial aspects, and for me, probably the craziest place that we can talk about is actually being a business owner or an entrepreneur, because, to me, that is the passion place for a lot of people. And it affects relationships, in a way like finances. It affects your finances like a relationships. It really kind of crosses both areas. If you're bad in business, you're not going to be able to sustain. If you're bad in relationships, your business will suffer. And in the same way, we talked about this before. If a business is out of alignment, it may not be noticeable today, tomorrow, or next week, but given a month, given a year, and certainly given 3 to 5 years where most businesses fail, I believe it's because they're out of line with their original mission, and they're out of line with the messages that they convey out there. And I mean, even their emotions and their passions, and they can't help but put out that messaging, especially if they go into the digital media world, and it won't attract the right client for them. So I want to go a little bit back, because I'm getting to know you just like the audience is. We got to meet through a mutual great friend of ours, who's also an iNETrepreneur member, Laura Pendle Kokenauer, or Laura Kokenauer Pendle. I know her both ways. We've known each other ourselves. We used to work together, believe it or not. And she's an amazing, very operations-oriented marketer. And you also have wonderful talents that she raves about. But tell us a little bit about your beginnings and why you said, this is the place that I want to be. I want to help people, but I'm going to use these superpowers and do it the right way for my clients.
Absolutely. So I actually have spent about 25 years in the tourism and hospitality space. So I know you also have a background in that industry, coming from San Diego, as you've shared. And what I learned is, in the different organizations that I had been working in and representing, I was doing mostly sales and marketing. But I came across a crossroad where I was in a full-time job. I no longer had that position. This was a couple of years ago. And so I thought, I could continue in this tourism space, but what was it that I was really doing within these organizations, beyond the sales, beyond the marketing, beyond the business management? And I did an introspective evaluation of my skill set, and I determined that I was helping these organizations have stronger processes and procedures, helping the employee-employer relationship, working to train teams that I was managing, and helping different departments to work better together and be integrated. And at the same time, on the side, I always had people come to me and say, hey, Michelle, can you help me with my resume? Can you help me? I have an interview. Can you be a reference for me? And I always liked that individual one-on-one, being a mentor. So when I was at that crossroad, I said, as much as I love tourism, I want to bring my skill set to the world, right? I don't want to be limited to just that industry. I want to serve any industry. And quite frankly, I've always worked in small organizations, and I have an appreciation for entrepreneurs and business owners. And so I decided that, small businesses were what I wanted to focus on, was helping small businesses find their alignment, right? So I also said, let's also do this for professionals in their career, in their professional development. If they're a leader, how can they be a better leader? And so I formed Alignment Advising. And
because one of the things that I look at is, when I always say you have to have not. Well, most businesses don't have much, so they can't have not. They can't, to truly grow. It's like a seed in the garden. I love gardening. And you underwater, it dies. You overwater, it dies. You get too much sun exposure, it dies. You don't get enough. I mean, really, you're kind of like in the most critical area of a new business owner or an entrepreneur. I mean, you're actually taking on the most critical, mission critical time frame of, a business owner. And to me, I don't know why and how you do it, but that sounds very stressful, but you, but I think you love it. Why is it that you love that so much?
I think it's helping people find their best success or be the best version of themselves. And that applies in the business space as well. So, a company can be making a lot of money, but if their employees are unhappy and there's poor, work practices, they're not in alignment, right? They're not reaching the best potential that they can be. And so I challenge businesses as well as individuals to say, let's have a growth mindset. Let's look at how can we improve? What works really well and what doesn't work at all? And what are some of the things that are working okay? Let's tweak those. Let's make some adjustments. So I like to say, consider me your business chiropractor, so to speak, right? So I come in, I look at how you're spending your resources. How are you budgeting? Do you need to shift money from marketing to maybe sales? Maybe you need to hire a salesperson. Maybe you need to let go of a salesperson and put your energy towards public relations. And so these are the things that I'm looking at when I meet with my clientele, but I'm very passionate about it because at the end of the day, when someone is looking at how they can grow their self and their business, they're a lot happier. They can make a better impact on society.
Well, and I think it's really interesting, how you talk about growth because, there really is sometimes conflicting, philosophies when it comes to growth. Some are very, personality dominated, some are systems dominated, and then there's also the transition of being more personality to more of, a system oriented company. And then, there's also how companies are, do we create a culture of competition within our own company or do we create a culture of collaboration with our own company? So I think when you sit down, I'm sure, many times you have to really, it's a case by case thing, but what are some of the attributes that you have to look at when you're with that business owner and what type of culture? Because a lot of what you do really is culture creation, isn't it?
It is. It absolutely is. So I think it's sitting down with that business owner or that leader of that organization and identifying their own headspace. Where are they at? Right? Because they're the ones leading the business. And if they're not in their own alignment, I work with them to identify, okay, what's tripping you up? What are some of your choke points or pain points, as I call them? And that actually, believe it or not, we carry that into the workspace. We carry that to our customers. We carry that to our employees. And if we don't have ourselves in check as a business owner or entrepreneur or leader, that spills over into the business. So it's really getting in that headspace and then understanding the headspace and the culture of that organization. Does the organization have a vision? Does it have a mission? Does it have a purpose? Some organizations don't. Some of them do, but it's just writing on a wall and they don't live by it, right? They're missing core values. They don't do the exercise of finding what are the core values of the business and the brand, and how does that translate to our staff, and how does it translate to the customer, and how does it translate into the marketplace?
Well, that was a mouthful. that was a mouthful. That was a fire hose. And I'm going to bring back one that I think is really important because many time in business when people think about alignment, they think about a process like a click funnel or something. They think about the things that come to mind in sales and marketing, right? It's like, are we sending out a consistent message? But here's the thing. It's like procedures of a corporation, the standard operating procedures, right? And the bylaws are really probably as much or even more important than anything else that can be done in sales and marketing. And the reason why I say that, because I'm a classic example of myself, and I will own it, that, I know every bylaw and I know every procedure, but you know where it stays? Right here. And it's really hard to grow a company and for everyone else to be aligned with the values and the worth and the passion and, the basic foundation of an organization, right? If it's right here, do you have conversations with business owners to say, if it stays in here, you will only get there? What do those conversations look like?
I actually just say those exact words, Robert. So and some of it comes down to your actions have to follow your words or whatever is in your mind, right? That needs to translate into words, and then that needs to translate into actions, because ultimately, if you're saying one thing to your staff or you're trying to do one thing in your business, but your actions are going counterintuitive to that, you're not going to find success. You're not going to reach your goal. That's just the way it works. And so it's literally just having these conversations to say, hey, you want your employee to do that, or you want your customer to do that? Well, do you do that? Let's pull the mirror up. And I'm pretty direct. And I think one of the things that I think alignment is being in tune with our authentic self. And what that means is we have to be honest, right? So often we're not honest because we don't want to hurt the customer's feelings or the employee's feelings. And while that's important, there's always a way to frame things in a positive light to get the results that we want. So some of it comes down to honesty and influence creates alignment.
Yeah, and it reminds me, I was in the mastermind once, and and we were talking about vision, and what came of it was although the vision can be in your mind, to scale your vision can't be, and it was like boom, oh my gosh, because without the kind of transcending that conversation, it goes down to, like you said, what is stated, what is said, who comes in and signs on to that, how do you critique versus criticize, how do you look at quality control? I mean, everything is basically comes down to kind of like a linear point. But then all of a sudden, you probably have to come in alignment advising and say, it's like, it may be linear in an approach, but you also have to have some flexibility in how you align things. So talk to us a little bit about that. How do you work through these processes, with a business owner? So not only do they stay on a path, but they also have the flexibility to have movement within that path.
So I always evaluate, what is the current process? What is the current procedure? What are they feeling works well? And then I will challenge them to say, have you tried this? Have you thought of this? What if you decided that, revenue wasn't your goal? What if it was more of a qualitative, like number of people that you meet versus dollar amount that you're receiving? So it's all about perspective. And one of the tips that I offer is to begin with a different perspective and approach. And you have to adopt that growth mindset. So the business owners that I work with and the people that I work with have to be willing to say, you know what, it's working really well, but guess what? It might work even better. And how awesome would that be? And so that's the starting point, is to know that person and that business is willing to take that leap of faith to say, hey, I might be doing great, but I want to do better. Or, hey, this isn't working at all. I'm hitting my head against a wall. Like, how do I change? And so a lot of it comes down to change and being willing to try new things. And be open to different things. And one of the things that you and I have talked about is expanding your network. And that's actually, so as a business owner, and I'm, advising businesses, I do this on myself. I try to get myself into alignment in my business all the time. I say, what new things can I do? Or what opportunity did I miss that I thought I didn't need, but I circled back to it and I say, let's give it a shot. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work and I get to try something else. So that's the mindset that I try to get my clients in as business owners, is just to be open and look at things from different angles.
Well, and another thing I've noticed too, and I'm going to let you brag on yourself and tell us how to you get in touch with you, of course, because I think you're just brilliant. But one of the things I've noticed, and maybe I'm going to help get some clarity, is one of the things that I understand in what you say is you advise to never have your cup so full that you don't have enough room to take on something, and that's where that trying comes in. And I think so much of the time, people, we're going to go back to alignment, get out of alignment so much that their cup is always running at overflow. I can't do it. I can't see it. I don't want it. I just stop it. And I think that what you do is you get them back to say, we're not going to radically change, the vision of your organization, but what we need to do is get yourself in balance so you can get back on course with your organization. And I see you do a really good job of that, Michelle. So I'm bragging about you a little bit. So at any rate,
Thank you.
Tell us some of the best ways that people get a hold of you. I got your information going across here, and and maybe just leave us with one pop rock. And the pop rock would be what is like one alignment like pitfall that we may not see, but you see all the time, and maybe we can look for that ourselves.
It's a red flag, and what to look for is when you think that you can do it all. Oh, I can do that. Oh, I'm going to volunteer for this. I'll do that.
Right.
That's your red flag to stop. And I say pause. Take the pause. Okay, that's so critically important. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They're just on an autopilot. And the best way to get off that autopilot is just push pause. Get some stillness and silence and regroup and allow yourself that. Don't beat yourself up over that, because that gets you into alignment when you do that. You have to get in tune with yourself, as I shared before. So we'll close with that. The best way to reach me is truly in a number of fashions. My website is alignmentadvising.com. You can email me at Michelle, 2 L's and an E, at alignmentadvising.com. You can also schedule a 30-minute complimentary session with me, and that is at calendly.com/alignment advising. So I just thank you, Robert, for this opportunity. And this is one of my favorite topics. Otherwise, my business wouldn't be named it. So,
right. Well, I appreciate you being on this show today, Michelle. And I look forward to having more shows and having you on again. And, really, helping others, because it's all about service. And, you have a servant's heart, and I'm glad to, be there arm in arm with you. Thank you again for being on the show today.
Thank you, Robert.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what a great show. We talked about alignment from several different angles, from financial to relationships to business, and in many ways they're distinctly different, but in many ways they're all entangled. When you're out of alignment, it affects everything. And I want to thank each and every person who's on the show. Now, remember, we are here on Thursdays, 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific Standard Time. And then the other 6 months a year, it's Mountain Standard Time, because we're in that crazy state called Arizona, and we always love to do everything differently. Thank you so much for watching us on the show today. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you next week. Bye-bye.
You've been watching the iNETrepreneur Show, a production of the iNETrepreneur Radio Network, with host Robert W. Jones. Join Robert each week as he visits with new and exciting guests who inspire, teach, and mentor entrepreneurs worldwide. Follow Robert each Thursday at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, and 8:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.